Okay, it's summertime, it's hot, and that means we depend on our air conditioner a lot. The problem is we're not always plugged into electricity. And because air conditioners take so much startup energy to get them running, to get that compressor going, many times we are stuck not being able to run it. We just don't have enough power with our coach batteries, or if we're mooch docking, we don't have anything except maybe a 110 volt outlet from a neighbor or a relative's garage, and that's not enough to run the air conditioning. At least it hasn't been until now. Now there's a new product called SoftStart RV, and we are going to talk about that in this interview of the week. We're going to show you what it looks like and how it works, and why, for those of us who like to boondock and mooch dock, it is a game changer. Our special guest is Mike Sokol. Mike is a engineer, and he is the guy who literally, he's got a book out, wrote the book on RV electrical safety.
Time now for the RV Podcast Interview of the Week. Interesting, entertaining, and helpful information about the RV lifestyle. Here's Mike with this week's interview.
We are lucky to have as our guest on this part of the podcast and the video, Mike Sokol. Mike's an old friend. He is an expert on all things electrical involving the RV and much more. And he joins us from his mad scientist lair somewhere in North America. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Well, very good. It's high atop Funkstown Hill in Funkstown, Maryland. I can oversee the Antietam down there. So yes, it is the lair. I like that.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, well, hidden out there somewhere. So, Mike, I got this SoftStart RV just on basically hearing about it, and I'm right in between RVs now. So I'm not going to put on the one I'm selling in a week, but I'm going to put on my new one. But this is, as I wrote in the blog the other day, I think a game changer for those who like to boondock, who like to mooch dock, but are frustrated every summer by not being able to run the air conditioner. Would you explain in layman terms how this works and why this indeed is a game changer?
Certainly. The first part of this is that RV air conditioners are pretty big because RVs don't have the best insulation. So, something that can barely cool your RV you could hang meat if you were doing this in your living room. So they take a fair amount of power to run. It's not really the power that you need to run that gets you into trouble. It's the power that you need to actually get it started, which is the real problem. So I could even draw you a little diagram if you want to see.
Yeah. Let's do this. Let's.
Okay, so let me go ahead and we have a compressor running on an RV. It's going to have like a steady state current. It's going to be somewhere around 11 to maybe 14 amps of current. And you can say, okay, that's not so bad, right? Because I got a 20 amp outlet. What's the problem? The problem is it doesn't just stay steady state like that. What happens is I'm going to draw a little zero line down here. When you first start it up, there'll be a little ramp up. That'll be maybe 3 or 4 amps of current. And that's just a fan running. But when compressor kicks in, it'll do this kind of a trick. It'll actually jump up and jump down. So it'll jump up to maybe 34 amps of current. And then after a half a second, it'll go back down to maybe that 11 to 14 amps. So where you get into trouble.
Spike up, Mike, is when we hear that big clunk, right? And
the big clunk.
You turn on the air and you hear the fan, and it goes boom, and that's when the compressor's on.
That's exactly right. So it's like revving up the engine on your car and dropping the clutch. It's this big bang that tries to start this thing up quickly. And because it's doing it quickly, it's got to have a lot of juice in there. That's what makes generators trip out. That's what trips 20 amp circuit breakers if you're mooch docking. And that can in fact trip 30 amp services if you've got other things running at a campground. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. Now,
what that does, so what they've done in the SoftStart technology is rather than having, I'm just going to draw this thing here with this great big peak that comes up like this. What they've done, see if I can make a smaller size thing. There it is. What they've done is the same thing here. It goes up half as high, but for longer time. And then it goes back to the same thing, if you can see that.
Yeah.
So what that means is it's taken a little longer to spin the compressor up, but instead of using, say, 35 amps of current, it may only use like 17 amps on startup. And it's pretty ingenious because what it does is it smooths out this startup cycle. Think of it as kind of an automatic transmission where it just kind of smooths you into the thing. And it does it by chopping up the amount of current that's going in to start this up.
So let's talk about this in practical terms, and I'll use the system I have on my current RV, and then I'll have on my next one, which is I have two 100 amp lithium batteries.
Right.
And then on the roof, I have 400 watts of solar, which usually does a pretty good job of keeping them all topped off during the day if it's sun.
Right.
Now, I have always had to start the generator, 35K generator on my RV to get to be able to use the air conditioner. How will this work with just when I'm out boondocking or on somebody's driveway mooch docking? How can I at least get that air conditioner to cool off, get the vehicle cool by using that SoftStart RV system?
Well, that will allow you to actually get your air conditioner started with a smaller inverter. You could probably start it up with a 2,000 watt inverter.
That's what I have.
But it's the runtime that gets you. So SoftStart technology does not reduce the amount of power while the air conditioner is running. What it does is it gets it started. So let's create a battery. So I'm going to go ahead and make my battery over here. Okay. I'll put a couple terminals up on top. And let's just say you got one battery that's 100 amp hours, right?
Yep.
And it's going to be 12 volts, obviously, right? So the only thing that really counts is watt hours of current. It's this wattage kind of a stuff and how long we can run it. So if we're going to go do that, let's go say, okay, how many watt hours is that? It's actually pretty simple. All you got to do is you take your 100 amps and you multiply it times 12 volts.
Okay.
So what that means is I have 1,200 watt hours of power. Okay. So that's our first thing. We just have to know, okay, how much we've got. If you've got two of these units, that means if you've got two batteries, guess how much watt hours you've got?
I got 2,400.
2,400. This is really, really simple arithmetic. It really is. So now let's go see what that air conditioner would take to run. Let's just say it's going to draw 12 amps of current while it's running. Again, this has got nothing to do with SoftStart technology. This is just the air conditioner running. So 12 amps. But now this time we're going to have to say we're at what voltage? 120 volts, right? Because it's plugged in. So if we would like to know how many watts that is, 12 times 12 is 144, right? Yeah. So it's 1,440 watts to run that air conditioner. So guess what? How much would we need? If we want to run it for an hour and it's taking 1,400 watts to run, guess how many watt hours it's going to take to run that air conditioner for an hour?
It's going to take
1,440, right?
Yeah, there's no getting around the number.
Right? I mean, this is real simple arithmetic. I can actually do most of this in my head. Say watt hours. Now, how many watt hours do we have in our battery?
We've got 2,400 with two 100.
We have 2,400. Now, that's assuming that you've got lithium batteries. You could take them all the way down to zero.
Yeah, and stop right for 1 second, and that's just a good point to make. Many people have AGM batteries, and
yes,
we should also
AGM
point out one of the reasons why lithium is so good, because unlike AGMs,
right?
And explain what AGMs do, how they you can't
absorb glass mat and flooded cell are both very similar in how they work. You really should not discharge them lower than about 50% of their capacity, because if you do that enough times, you'll destroy the battery. So a lot of people take them down flat. If you take any of an AGM or a flooded cell battery down flat a few dozen times, you've killed it. You might as well just go buy new batteries.
But this is another reason why so many people are turning to lithium these days, because it is so much more efficient.
You can discharge them down to zero thousands of times.
Yep. All right. So now we've got a rough idea with two 100 amp lithium batteries. I've got 2,400 watt hours. I'm using about 1,440 watt hours. So I've got a little less than 2 hours that I can.
2,400 divided by, we said 1,440, right?
Right.
Is equal to what? I'm not gonna do this in my head. Call it my little calculator here. 2,400.
You know, there are people doing this in their head now. They're saying, well, everybody.
Yeah. 1 equals 1.75 hours of runtime. That's assuming that they were fully charged, you've got nothing else going on, no other losses in the system. Realistically, it might be an hour and a half if you were going to do that. And now that is also assuming 100% duty cycle on the air conditioners. It's really hot and that thing's running the whole time.
And it doesn't usually do that. Well, it does when it's really, really.
I consider 50% duty cycle. So you might get 3 hours of runtime out of that, maybe.
So what I usually do is I will start the air conditioner after dark, and it will draw in all that humidity, which is really what makes it so uncomfortable. And then it will cool it down. And then just before I go to bed, I'll turn the air off, and sometimes I'll even pop up a window and put the fan on, and it's usually more than enough to sleep comfortably through the night. But without some sort of air, without being able to run the air and cool it off, it is a long and vicious night out there when it's hot.
Long and miserable. I do understand that. Now, so the realistic numbers are, if you have a single flooded cell battery, you might get 20 minutes out of this before you flatten that thing. Okay, or down to 50%, no further than you should go. If you have a pair of lithiums, and you've got and you have a 2,000 watt inverter of your SoftStart RV technology, you could realistically maybe run that for an hour, probably, and then you still have enough power left over to run. I find 50% of my readers have CPAP machines.
Yeah,
50%. Those things take like 500 watts to run. So, you don't want that thing dying in the middle of the night either.
No, but the point for a lot of people who do that boondocking, this will allow you not to have to run the generator. You can always use the generator to cool it off, and then turn the generator off, and then just work on the SoftStart RV as well, and get more hours.
Yes, and because and a duty cycle is just a percentage of time that the compressor is running to kind of maintain the coolness. In the middle of the day, I guarantee you that thing's at 100%. At night, it may only is running at maybe a 30% duty cycle. And you might be able to comfortably stretch 2 or 3 hours out of this without depleting your batteries too much.
So there's some benefit for people who have larger RVs as well. The big Class A's, the toy haulers, the fifth wheels that have two air conditioners, or maybe 3 air conditioners. So how could somebody in a Class A or somebody who has more than one air conditioner, I suppose they could put one of these SoftStart RVs on each air conditioner and get a pretty good benefit.
Yes, you would need to have one for each air conditioner. And so basically, sometimes these, they'll have various things that'll, turn them on in sequence. You don't want to run all your air conditioners off of one thermostat. You don't want all of them hitting at the same time. The other thing that's interesting, and most people don't understand, that when your pedestal is in the sunlight and the sun's beating down on that thing and just so hot that you can't touch the pedestal, that is actually heating up the circuit breaker. So it thinks it'll trip sooner in the hot weather just because the sun's beating on the circuit breaker.
Same thing. Never occurred to me before. Mike, how hard is the SoftStart RV to install? Is this a easy DIY, or should most people get a little help?
Well, so here's the thing. Even though the wiring is fairly simple and straightforward to do, you remember you're going to be up on top of something that's 13 feet high. Now, I don't know if any of you have taken a fall from 13 feet. I have, and it is not fun. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that you are safe to climb up onto that roof of that RV. If you are not, then you're going to want to get a technician to help you. Once you're up there, you're going to make sure that everything's powered down. And then at that point, it's actually probably a 30 to 45 minute kind of a gig. It's not terribly complicated. They've got it all color coded. You can go on the site. They've got really nice diagrams for dozens of air conditioners that might be out there. I'm an engineer, so I'm used to looking at schematics. I did this on my test bench probably in 20 or 30 minutes. I think that at a scale, this is not like plugging a light bulb in. I'd say on a scale from 0 to 10, this is about a 7. They also offer a really interesting service where they will come on top of your RV with you virtually. That is, you take your phone or iPad, and they will help talk you through the wiring, which I think is a really, really good thing. They have this service that they can assist you if you get into trouble. So I would say that any RV technician, any electrician would easily be able to do this for you. If you're comfortable climbing up on the top, and if you've changed out your batteries, so I get guys do this all the time. I'm swapping in, instead of this, I'm putting in if you've installed an inverter, it's not any more complicated than that, really.
Mike, tell our audience how they can get a hold of you and follow. You mentioned your newsletter, and there's a lot of questions I'm sure everybody has about electricity and RV, and you are the guy to go to. By default, I guess. So the vast majority of things you can find that I've written is over on rvtravel.com. I'm also migrating a lot of my earlier stuff to rvelectricity.com. So you can find a lot of stuff on RV electricity. If you just go on rvtravel.com and just search on Sokol, you will find I have close to 400 articles just sitting right there. Probably the easiest way from an email standpoint is mike@noshockzone.org. And that hits me everywhere. All right. Mike Sokol has been our guest. And Mike, thanks for walking us through this SoftStart RV. And we'll have some fun with it. We'll obviously be following up with a lot of videos on our end as we install it and as we go out there and use it. But I think for all our viewers, but especially those who like to boondock and moochstock, this is a pretty neat thing to have. And I knew if anybody would know how it works, you would be the guy. Thanks, Mike, for being with us.
Thanks, other Mike.
All right, if you want more information about this, just go to rvlifestyle.com and it's up. We've got a big long blog post about it. Look in the show notes here. We'll have links so you can find out more about SoftStart RV. Thanks to Mike for helping us understand how it works. And for all of you, thank you for watching. Do us a favor, give us a thumbs up on this video, and don't forget to subscribe to the RV Lifestyle channel right here on YouTube. When you do, click that little bell icon and then you'll be subscribed. You'll get notified when we have new videos online. I'm Mike Wendland. Thanks for watching and happy trails.